Here's an update on Sandisk, ticker symbol SNDK. We talked about this stock early this week, and we mentioned that the stock was very overbought, so it was kind of difficult to buy, but it was also dangerous to short it, given that it still had momentum. And we talked about some levels it may have to get back to so that we have a clearer setup. And I think we've achieved this now. So quickly, before we look at the chart, as a reminder, we talk about this company as one that has actually grown the top line quite nicely over the past couple of quarters, but we essentially have a big disconnect, at least we think, from our work. Net income has gone up, but the disconnect is really the market cap. So the market cap's gone from, I don't know, 7 billion to like 30. So, and that's just because the stock has blown materially higher. We think there might have been a bit of sort of a meme stock type of thing going on. Either way, and anyway, let's look at the chart. So we use our momentum indicator for something like this. It's called the TST Trender Momentum Indicator. And you can see at the bottom bottom left on the screen, you can see right there, there's a little green arrow that I'm pointing at with that big, huge green arrow I just drew. There's a little one right there. That was our buy signal from a momentum perspective to buy the stock. We essentially then had the stock go up as much as 520-ish% or something. It's still up now about 434%. So, sorry, 520, 430. Yeah, so it's been just an absolutely dramatic move in the stock. And I think what's happening now is the stock is getting to a point where it's showing a little bit of mean reversion. So essentially, this is definitely not necessarily a short in any meaningful way. All the stock has done is basically mean revert back to this blue line, which is kind of like the absolute minimum. And you can see that's kind of where it's moved back to basically since September. Every time it got a bit extended. We think it's probably way overdue to get back to this purple line, which is currently the value on that is about $204, $205 currently. So if that were to be the next stop, that is about, let's call it 15% from the current level as I'm recording this. So the question, of course, is what's the trade? Well, for one, if I wanted to be more aggressive, I would go in and maybe put on a bit of a short here. Again, it's not an absolute short in an aggressive way because we still have bullish momentum, but it's very overbought still, and I think we could see mean reversion. So this is more of a mean reversion trade than a momentum trade to the downside, which actually, before I continue on this, let me just quickly explain what that means. So we tend to have 4 stages in markets at the bottom, just like we have 4 stages at the top. So this is the 4 stages at the bottom. I'll show you what it looks like at the top. So essentially, you get extreme oversold or extreme overbought like we have right now, and then you tend to have momentum. In the case of an oversold, momentum's to the upside. In the case of an overbought, momentum will then be to the downside, and then ultimately maybe we get a bullish trend on the bottoming phase, or then a bearish trend to the downside, which would be this on the left if that materializes. But all we have right now for Sandisk is we're still in this phase, in the extreme overbought phase, right? The opposite of this. And so we're definitely not yet in a momentum phase to the downside, although that certainly could come, but we're not there yet. So in this phase, we're just trying to be a little bit cute, small size, see if the stock starts mean reverting a little bit. In this case, again, to the downside. The good thing about now versus a few days ago when we talked about it, the stock has started mean reverting a little bit. It was actually down, 14% on Thursday, the 13th of November. And so we think we can trade against the recent highs, again, in small size. So that's the good news now. We have an actual stop loss level that's very clear. So that's up here. That's the stop loss level. And then I think the mean reversion target would be about 205. If one wanted to take the opposite of this and say, listen, it's balanced every time at the blue line here, why not go long? That certainly could be done too. The good news is the stop there would probably be about 205, right? So this now comes down to what is your biases in the market. I can't give you that bias. I personally tend to think the stock's overbought and might mean revert more. But if one is in the buy the dip phase, right, this might be one of those situations where one goes long, has the profit target there at the all-time highs, and the initial profit target, and maybe a stop loss a bit wider in this case because it needs some breathing room. So again, I think what seems to be more probable here is that the stock mean reverts more. Again, that would go in line with this 4-phase process that I'm showing you here. But again, it's the inverse of that here because we're at the top of the phase, so we're going to have an extreme overbought reading. But we're not yet at a momentum phase. Once we have a momentum phase, which we don't yet have in this case to the downside, right? Then it would actually become a short. We still have bullish momentum. So momentum started back in August. And now, whatever we said, 500 something percent later, or whatever it was, 400, still 423%. Like, it's still bullish momentum. That hasn't changed. It's just morbidly overbought. So maybe there's a bit of a mean reversion. So I hope this helps give you some context, right? Put things in the context, and kind of understand the different phases we tend to have in market. If this video helped you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. You give us a thumbs up, like. And if you want to see this approach in action, you will want to join us in our Set the Market morning call, which happens at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. Make sure you join us for that in the link down below. Again, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.